You hold something close, a book you love, a song that moves you, a way of seeing the world that feels true. And you wait. You wait for someone to notice. You wait for someone to say, yes, that matters. You wait for permission to believe it's real. You share it carefully. You mention it in passing, watching their face. You send the link. You say, have you heard this? Have you read this? What do you think? And in that moment between speaking and hearing their response, there's a tightness, a small holding of breath. Because what you're really asking is, am I allowed to love this? Does loving this make me foolish? Does it make me less? This is the weight you carry. Not the thing itself, but the waiting. The constant waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay. You notice how the love changes when you're alone with it, how it's lighter, how it moves freely. But then you think about showing it to someone, and immediately there's a shift. The love becomes a question. It becomes something that needs defending, something that needs to be enough. You imagine their reaction, you rehearse it, you think they won't get it, or worse, they'll be polite. They'll nod and smile and say nothing, and you'll know they think it's small, unimportant, not worth the attention you give it, and so you wait. You wait for the right person, the person whose yes will count, whose approval will finally let you rest. You think, if they see it, if they value it, then I can stop doubting. Then I can just love it without this heaviness. But that person comes and they say yes, and for a moment there's relief, a brief opening. And then the question returns, because now you wonder if they really meant it, if they were just being kind. Or you think, well, they're just one person. What about everyone else? What about the people who matter more? You see how it never ends, how the confirmation you seek keeps moving, keeps shifting just out of reach. Because the problem isn't that you haven't found the right person to validate what you love. The problem is that you're asking them to do something they cannot do. You're asking them to give you permission to trust yourself. Every time you wait for someone else to confirm it, you're saying, I don't believe in my own experience. I don't trust what moves me. I need you to tell me it's real, because I can't know on my own. And this is where the suffering lives. Not in loving what you love, not even in sharing it, but in making your love conditional, in making it dependent on someone else's response, in turning something that was whole into something that needs completion. You feel it, don't you? The way this waiting hollows you out, the way it makes you smaller. You start to edit yourself. You stop mentioning the things that matter most because you're tired of the silence that follows. You're tired of feeling foolish. So you keep it hidden. You keep it safe. But hidden and safe, it starts to fade. It loses its color. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. You read that and you think, yes, but what about this specific thing I love? What about this book, this music, this way of being? Does that deserve it too? And maybe the answer is simply this. It doesn't need to deserve anything. It doesn't need to be important to anyone else. It doesn't need to be validated or understood or even acknowledged. It only needs to be true for you, right now, in this moment. But you're afraid of that. You're afraid that if you stop waiting, if you stop seeking confirmation, you'll be alone with it. And maybe you'll discover it wasn't as important as you thought. Maybe you'll lose interest. Maybe it will disappear. Or maybe you're afraid of the opposite, that it will stay, that it will keep mattering even when no one else cares. And you'll have to live with that gap, the gap between what you love and what the world values. The gap between your inner life and the recognition you crave. This is what you're sitting with, this question, this waiting. And underneath the waiting is something deeper, a belief that you need permission, that your experience isn't enough on its own, that love requires witnesses to be real. But what if it doesn't? What if the love is already complete, already whole, already real, and the waiting is just something extra you've added? something you've been taught to add, something you can see clearly now without needing to change it, just seeing it. How you wait, how you hold your breath, how you make yourself small, hoping someone else will tell you you're allowed to be large. The question remains open. You're still waiting or you're not. Either way, it's here. This moment, this breath, this thing you love, with or without anyone's permission. You've done something. Maybe it took effort, maybe it came easily. But now there's this quiet pull, this need for someone to notice, to see it, to acknowledge what you've done. And when they don't, something tightens. You check your phone. You mention it casually. You wait for the response that will tell you it mattered, that you mattered, that what you did was real. What are you protecting by needing them to see? There's a fragility here, something that feels like it might disappear if no one witnesses it. As if your accomplishment, your effort, your worth somehow depends on being reflected back to you through someone else's eyes. You created something, or completed something, or worked through something difficult, and that happened. It was real in the moment it occurred, but now you're carrying it forward, holding it up, waiting for validation to make it solid, to make it count. The doing is over, but the needing continues. Notice how exhausting this is. You finished the work, but you haven't finished working. Now you're managing the story of what you did, crafting how to present it, watching for reactions, measuring the weight of their words against the weight of your hope. What you're protecting is an image, a version of yourself that needs to be seen as capable, as valuable, as someone who does things that matter. And this image is so fragile that it requires constant feeding, constant proof, constant witnesses. Without their seeing, something in you feels incomplete. But look closely at what's happening. You're taking something that was whole in itself, the action, the completion, the moment of doing, and making it conditional, making it dependent. You're saying, this isn't real until someone else confirms it. I'm not real until someone else confirms me. And so you wait. And in the waiting, you suffer. Because they might not see, they might not care. They might notice, but not enough, not in the way you need them to. And then what? Then you're left holding this thing you did, and it feels smaller now, less significant, as if their lack of attention drained it of meaning. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your own love and affection. But you're not giving it. You're outsourcing it, handing the power to validate your existence to people who are distracted, who are busy, who are living inside their own need to be seen. What you're protecting is the belief that you're not enough on your own, that your actions, your efforts, your being here doesn't count unless someone else is counting it for you. And this belief is costing you peace. Because even when they do see, even when they acknowledge and praise and celebrate what you've done, it's never quite enough. The relief is temporary, the validation fades, and soon you're back to needing again. Creating again, not for the joy of creating, but for the next moment of being seen. You've built a life where your worth is always one acknowledgement away. This isn't about whether recognition feels good. It does. It's natural to appreciate being seen, but notice the difference between appreciation and need, between enjoying recognition and requiring it to feel real. When you need it, you're not free. You're bound to their attention, their approval, their limited and distracted capacity to notice you in the way you want to be noticed. And the image you're protecting, this capable, accomplished, valuable self, it's not stable. It can't be, because it's made of other people's perceptions. It's made of shifting opinions and fleeting attention and moods that have nothing to do with you. You're trying to build a foundation on sand. What if what you did was enough simply because it happened? Not because it was witnessed, not because it was praised, but because it was real in the moment you did it. What if you didn't need to carry it forward, holding it up for inspection? The action is already complete. The effort already occurred. The only thing still happening is your need to make it mean something about you, to use it as proof, to protect yourself from the fear that without external confirmation you might not matter at all. But that fear, that's what you're really protecting. The fear that you're not enough, that your existence is conditional, that you need to earn your place here by doing things that others notice, and you can't protect yourself from that fear by feeding it, by giving it more proof, more validation, more witnesses. It will always want more. You're here. You've always been here, with or without their seeing, with or without their acknowledgement. The need to be seen doesn't make you more real, it just makes you more dependent. And maybe that's what you notice now, not what to do about it, not how to fix it, just that it's happening, that you're protecting something that doesn't need protection, that you're seeking confirmation for something that doesn't require confirmation. You did what you did, and it's already done. You're still checking, aren't you? Still scanning the room to see who looked at you, still replaying the conversation to hear whether they meant it, still measuring yourself against the moment someone chose you or didn't. And even when you tell yourself it doesn't matter anymore, even when you say you've moved on, there's this quiet weighing that happens, this measuring, this wondering if you were enough. It's such a simple thing being chosen. Someone picks you, someone says yes, someone reaches for you instead of someone else. And somehow that moment became the proof, the evidence that you matter, that you're worth something, that you exist in a way that counts. But here's what's happening. You're taking that moment, that single moment when someone said yes, and you're building your entire sense of worth on top of it. You're making it mean everything. And when it's not there, when you weren't chosen, or when the choosing stopped, you feel it like a collapse, like the ground disappeared. You carry these moments with you. The job you didn't get, the person who chose someone else, the group that didn't invite you, the silence after you spoke. And each one becomes another piece of evidence in a case you're building against yourself. You're gathering proof that you're not enough, that something about you is lacking, that if you were truly worthy, you would have been chosen. And so you keep looking for it. You keep hoping the next time will be different. The next person, the next opportunity, the next moment when someone reaches for you and says yes, this will be the one that finally settles it. This will be the proof that stays. But it never does it? Even when you are chosen, even when someone does say yes, there's this fear underneath, this quiet terror that they might change their mind, that they might see what you see, that the choosing was a mistake. You're living in a story where your worth is always outside of you, always in someone else's hands, always dependent on whether they turn toward you or away. And the exhausting part is that it never ends. Because even when you're chosen, you're already afraid of not being chosen next time. You're already bracing for the moment it's taken away. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. But you placed that love and affection in the hands of others. You made it conditional. You've made it something that must be earned through being selected. Watch what happens in your body when you think about not being chosen. There's a tightness, isn't there? A contraction, a pulling away from the feeling. You don't want to be here, in this place where you weren't enough. So you push it down, or you build a story around it, or you try to prove it wrong. But the feeling doesn't leave, it just waits. It sits there quietly, shaping how you move through the world. And the truth you don't want to see is this: the measuring never stops, because the worth you're looking for can't be given by someone else. It can't be confirmed by being chosen. Because even when you're chosen, even when someone says yes, you're the one who decides whether to believe it. You're the one who decides whether it counts. You're the one still measuring. You're chasing something that keeps disappearing. Someone chooses you today, but what about tomorrow? They loved you then, but what about now? You were enough in that moment, but what about this one? The ground keeps shifting because you built your worth on something that was never solid to begin with, on something that changes, on something that ends. And maybe the real question isn't why you're still measuring your worth by whether you were chosen. Maybe the real question is, what if the measuring itself is the problem? What if the constant weighing, the endless checking, the looking outside yourself for confirmation? What if that's where the suffering lives? You've been waiting for someone to choose you in a way that finally makes you feel whole, in a way that finally makes you stop questioning. But every moment of being chosen is already gone. It's already in the past. And you're here, now, still measuring, still checking, still afraid. And nothing you're measuring is stable. Not their opinion of you, not their choice, not even your own sense of whether you're enough. It's all moving, all changing, all dissolving the moment you try to hold it. So you're left with this, the quiet awareness that you've been looking for solid ground in a place where everything shifts, that you've been trying to build a permanent sense of worth on temporary moments, that you've been asking other people to give you something they were never able to give. And maybe you don't need an answer right now. Maybe you just need to see it, to see how the measuring happens, to see how the suffering is created moment by moment in the gap between who you are and who you think you need to be chosen as. You're here, still measuring, still checking. And the question remains, you keep waiting for someone to really hear you. Not just nod along, not just respond with the right words, but to truly see what you're saying, to feel the weight of it, to understand. And maybe then, when they finally hear you, when they really get it, you'll feel like you exist, like you're solid, like you're real. But notice what happens when someone does listen. When they lean in, when their eyes soften, when they say, "Yes, I hear you." There's a brief relief, isn't there? A moment where you feel seen. And then, so quickly, it fades. The realness you thought would arrive doesn't stay. And you're left wondering if they truly heard you after all. Maybe they didn't understand the right part. Maybe you didn't say it clearly enough. Maybe you need to try again with someone else in a different way. So you keep speaking, keep explaining. Keep reaching for that moment when being heard will finally make you feel like you're here. But what if the problem isn't that no one hears you? What if the problem is that you're trying to become real through their hearing? You're handing them the job of making you solid, of making you matter, of making you exist, and they can't do that. No one can do that. Because the feeling you're chasing, that sense of being real, it's not something that comes from outside. It's not built by someone else's attention or understanding or validation. When you believe that being heard will make you real, you're saying, "I'm not enough as I am. I'm not solid until someone else confirms it. I'm not here until they see me." And that belief, that quiet belief, it creates a kind of hunger, a reaching. You start performing your pain, shaping your words, waiting for the look in their eyes that says you've finally been understood. And when it doesn't come, or when it comes and then disappears, you feel hollow, unseen, like you're fading. But you're not fading, you're just grasping. You're grasping at their attention to fill something that feels empty inside. And the more you grasp, the more you need. The more you need, the more you perform. The more you perform, the less real you feel. It's a loop, and it's exhausting. Notice how it feels in your body when you're waiting to be heard. That tightness in your chest, that urgency in your throat, that need, you're not resting in yourself. You're leaning out, reaching, trying to pull something back that will make you whole. But wholeness doesn't come from being heard. It doesn't come from being seen. It doesn't come from someone finally understanding. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your own love and affection. Not their love, not their attention, yours. And yet you keep looking outward, You keep believing that if you could just find the right person, the right moment, the right words, then you'd feel real. Then you'd feel like you matter. But mattering isn't something someone else gives you. It's not a gift they can hand over. It's not a confirmation they can provide. You already exist, right now, whether anyone hears you or not. The question isn't whether you're real. The question is, why do you need someone else to tell you that you are? What is it you're trying to prove? What is it you're trying to feel? And why do you believe their hearing will deliver it? Maybe you felt invisible for so long that being heard feels like the only way to exist. Maybe you've been dismissed or overlooked or misunderstood so many times that validation feels like survival. Maybe you've learned that your worth is measured by how much attention you can hold. But all of that, all of those reasons, they're just stories about why you need to be heard. And the more you believe them, the more you suffer. Because needing to be heard is not the same as being real. And being real is not something that requires an audience. You are here, right now, in this moment. Whether anyone hears you or not, whether anyone understands or not, whether anyone sees you or not. The realness you're searching for, it's not out there, it's not in their eyes, it's not in their response, it's not in the moment when they finally get it. It's here, in the quiet, in the stillness, in the simple fact of your existence, without needing to be confirmed. And maybe that's the hardest thing to sit with, that you don't need to be heard to be real. That you don't need to be seen to exist, that you are already here, already whole, already enough, without anyone else's acknowledgement. The hunger to be heard, it's just that, a hunger. And like all hungers, it will never be satisfied by what you're feeding it. So maybe, just for now, you can stop reaching, stop performing, stop waiting for someone to make you real, and just sit with what's here. With the discomfort of not being heard, with the fear of not mattering, with the quiet ache of wanting to be seen. You don't have to fix it, you don't have to make it go away, you just have to see it. You hold the promise like a stone in your hand, you turn it over, you test its weight, you check to see if it's still there. And somewhere, quietly, you'll stop looking at the person who spoke those words. You're looking at the promise itself. You're looking at what it gave you before it was broken, or before it became uncertain, or before time made it feel far away. What are you clinging to in that promise? Maybe it's the feeling of being chosen. The way it felt when they said those words and you believed them. The way your chest opened, the way the future looked different for a moment. You weren't alone in that moment, you weren't uncertain. And now you carry that moment with you, trying to keep it alive, trying to make it mean what it meant then. But the person who made the promise has already moved. They've changed. They've forgotten, or they've grown tired, or they've simply become someone else in the time between then and now. And still you hold the promise. Still you return to it, not to them, to it. You might say you're hurt because they broke their word. And maybe that's true. But look closer. Look at what you do with the promise when you're alone. You repeat it to yourself. You measure your days against it. You use it to know who you are. You use it to know you matter. You use it to feel safe. The promise became a reference point, a place you could return to when everything else felt unstable. And now you're not grieving the person, you're grieving the reference point. You're grieving the ground you thought you were standing on. What if the promise was never solid? What if it was just words spoken in a moment by someone who was also uncertain, also changing, also afraid? You wanted the promise to stop time. You wanted it to make something permanent in a life where nothing stays. And it worked for a while. It gave you something to hold. But now the promise is fading, or it's already gone, and you feel the ground moving under you again. You feel how little you can count on, how little you can control. And so you cling harder. You replay the words, you analyze the tone. You look for proof that it was real, that it still is real, that it means you're not as alone as you feel right now. But the person who spoke those words is not in the room. They're not in your hands. They're somewhere else, living a life that moves and breathes and changes just like yours. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." You think you're holding on to love or loyalty or proof that you were seen. But what you're really holding is the idea that something could have stayed, that someone could have been the answer, that a few words spoken once could carry you through the uncertainty of being alive. And the promise can't do that. It was never built for that. You can feel it, can't you? The exhaustion of carrying it, the way your mind returns to it again and again like a tongue to a sore tooth. The way you measure every interaction against what was said before. The way you wait, the way you hope, the way you quietly resent the person for not being what the promise suggested they would be. But they were never the promise, they were always just a person, uncertain, changing, trying, failing, moving through their own life, their own fear, their own forgetting. And you are here, holding words that have already dissolved, trying to make them solid again, trying to make them hold you. What if you stopped? Not because you should, not because it's the right thing to do, but just to see what happens. What if you let the promise sit there without picking it up, without testing it, without using it to know who you are? What would be left? Maybe just this moment, this breath, this quiet ache that has nothing to do with what anyone said or didn't say, this feeling of being here, alive, without a script, without a guarantee, without someone else's words to tell you it's going to be okay. The promise gave you certainty, and certainty feels like love. But it's not love, it's just the absence of fear for a moment. And now the fear is back, and you think the promise will take it away again. But it won't, it can't. The promise is gone. Or it was never there the way you needed it to be. And the person is just a person, and you are here, still breathing, still afraid, still wanting something to hold on to. And maybe that's all there is to see right now. Not what you should do, not how to let go. Just this, the way you've been carrying something that was never yours to carry. The way you've been clinging to words instead of seeing the person who spoke them. The way you've been trying to make something stay. And it won't stay. Nothing does. You wake up tired, and there's already a small resentment forming, not toward anyone else, toward this body, this heaviness, this stiffness in your back, this dullness behind your eyes. You expect the body to feel different, to cooperate, to give you energy, clarity, comfort, and when it doesn't, something in you tightens. Something whispers, "This isn't fair." You've been carrying this quiet frustration for a long time, haven't you? Not always loud, not always obvious, but it's there. In the mirror, in the way you stand, in the way you pull at your clothes or avoid certain movements or wish you felt lighter, sharper, younger. You're asking this body to be something it never promised to be. And the asking has become a kind of suffering. Because the body doesn't owe you anything. It never signed a contract. It never agreed to stay the same. It never agreed to be pain-free or beautiful by someone else's standard, or tireless or predictable. But somewhere along the way, you started believing it should. You started expecting it to perform, to deliver, to meet some invisible standard you didn't even choose for yourself. And now, when it doesn't, you feel betrayed, not by anyone else, by your own flesh, by your own bones. By the simple fact that this body ages and aches and changes without asking your permission. You treat it like a machine that's malfunctioning, like a servant that's failed you. You push it when it's tired. You criticize it when it's soft. You ignore it when it whispers, and then resent it when it screams. And underneath all of that, there's a quiet belief, if I could just fix this, control this, perfect this, then I would finally be okay. But that belief is where the suffering lives. Not in the body itself, in the demand you place on it, in the expectation that it should be other than it is, in the refusal to let it be temporary, fragile, human. You compare it to what it used to be, to what you think it should be, to what you see in others. And every comparison is a small violence, a small rejection, a small way of saying you are not enough. And the body hears that, not in words, but in the way you move through the world, in the way you hold your breath, in the way you tense against your own skin. The body is changing, right now, in this moment, cells dying, cells being born, breath moving in and out, heart beating without your instruction. It has never stopped changing, it will never stop changing. And yet you keep asking it to stay still, to stay the same, to stay under your control. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. You don't need to turn away from the body, you need to turn away from the demand, the expectation, the contract you wrote in your mind and keep trying to enforce. The body is not failing you. It is simply doing what all conditioned things do. It is arising, it is passing, it is moving through time. And when you see that, really see it, something softens. Not because the body suddenly becomes what you wanted, but because the wanting itself begins to loosen. The resentment begins to quiet. You stop waiting for the body to give you permission to be okay. You stop treating it like an obstacle between you and peace. You start to notice how much energy you've been spending, how much attention, how much quiet rage, all directed at this temporary form. This collection of bones and breath that was never meant to be permanent, that was never meant to be perfect. That was only ever meant to be here for a while, doing what it does, and maybe, just for a moment, you stop asking it to be different, you stop grading it, you stop punishing it with your thoughts, you let it be exactly what it is. Tired if it's tired, soft if it's soft, aching if it's aching. You let it breathe without your judgment pressing down on it. This doesn't mean you suddenly love it, or accept it, or feel grateful for it. Those are just more expectations, more demands. This is quieter than that. This is just seeing, just noticing, just letting the body be a body without needing it to be your salvation or your enemy. You've been at war with it for so long, and the war is exhausting. Not because the body is difficult, but because the demand is impossible. The body cannot give you what you're asking for. It cannot make you whole. It cannot make you permanent. It cannot make you safe from change. And when you see that, really see it, the question remains, not as something to answer, but as something to sit with. Why have you been treating this body like it owes you something it never agreed to give? The question is still here. The body is still here. And you are still here watching, not fixing, just seeing. You carry something inside you that wasn't always there, a sense of wrongness, a feeling that some part of you, something you said, something you did, something you are, is unacceptable. And when you look closely, you notice it didn't come from nowhere. It came from someone, a voice, a look, a silence that spoke louder than words. Maybe it was a parent who flinched when you laughed too loud. Maybe it was a partner who made you feel small for wanting what you wanted. Maybe it was a friend who turned your vulnerability into a joke, and now you hold that moment like a stone in your chest. And here's what happens. You begin to see yourself through their eyes. You start to measure yourself against their discomfort, their judgment, their idea of what's acceptable. You watch yourself constantly, wondering if you're about to cross some invisible line. You edit your words before you speak them. You shrink your presence so it doesn't offend. You apologize for taking up space. The shame becomes yours. You carry it as if it's true. As if their reaction was a mirror showing you something real about who you are. But was it? You gave them something. Your honesty, your need, your humanness. And they couldn't hold it. They turned away, they criticized. They made you wrong. And instead of seeing that as their limitation, their discomfort, their own unexamined fear, you took it in. You made it mean something about you. Now you move through the world with that shame like a second skin. You feel it when you want to speak up, but don't. You feel it when you want to ask for something, but stop yourself. You feel it when you feel too much, need too much, are too much. And you don't even question it anymore. It just feels like the truth. But it's not the truth. It's a story someone else wrote and you agreed to memorize. You see, shame only survives when you believe the story, when you believe that their reaction was about you, when you believe that their discomfort was your responsibility, when you believe that their version of acceptable is the one you must live by. And you do believe it, not because it makes sense, but because you're afraid. Afraid that if you let go of their judgment, you'll be alone. Afraid that if you stop shrinking, they'll leave. Afraid that without their approval, you won't know who you are. So you hold on. You keep checking. You keep adjusting. You keep trying to be the version of yourself that won't disturb them. And in doing so, you give them the power, not once, but over and over. Every time you silence yourself, every time you second guess, every time you feel that familiar twist in your stomach and decide it means you're wrong. But their power isn't real. It only exists because you keep handing it to them. You keep returning to their judgment as if it's the final word. You keep asking their permission to be yourself. And the exhausting part, they might not even remember. They might not even know. The moment that shaped your shame might have been nothing to them. A passing comment, a bad day, a reflection of their own pain. But you've been carrying it ever since, building a whole identity around it, living as if their discomfort is the measure of your worth. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your compassion, not their version of you, not the acceptable you, not the small, quiet, apologetic you, but you, the one who feels, the one who needs, the one who is human and flawed and still here. And maybe that's the question underneath all of this. Not whether you're giving someone else the power, you already know you are. The real question is whether you're willing to see it, whether you're willing to notice how tightly you're gripping their judgment, how much energy it takes to keep shrinking, how much of your life is spent trying to avoid a feeling they planted in you years ago. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to suddenly become fearless or free. You just have to see it. See how the shame isn't yours. See how you've been carrying something that was never true. See how their discomfort became your identity and how you've been protecting it, defending it, living inside it, as if it were a fact. It's not a fact. It's just a feeling. And feelings, all of them, come and go. They rise, they pass. They're not permanent. They're not you. So maybe you just sit with that, not to change it, not to let it go, just to see it clearly. To notice that you've been living in someone else's story about who you should be ashamed of being. And in that seeing, something shifts, not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly. A little space opens, a little breath, a little less weight. The shame is still there, but now you see it for what it is. A hand you've been holding, a voice you've been believing, a power you've been giving away. And you're still here watching. You've noticed it, haven't you? That tightness in your chest when someone questions what you believe. That heat rising when they don't see things the way you see them. There's something you're holding on to, something you're protecting, and in that moment, being right matters more than anything else. More than peace, more than connection, more than the quiet freedom of simply being here. What is it you're defending? Maybe it's an opinion you've carried for years. Maybe it's the story of who you are, the smart one, the logical one, the one who understands how things really work. Maybe it's a wound that still aches, and being right about it is the only way you know how to make sense of the pain. Whatever it is, you can feel how much energy it takes to hold it up, to keep it safe from doubt, from questioning, from the possibility that you might be wrong. And when someone challenges it, even gently, you feel it like a threat. Your body tenses. Your mind sharpens. You gather your evidence, your examples, your reasons. You rehearse what you'll say next, even while they're still speaking. You're not listening anymore, you're defending. But defending what exactly? If you look closely, you'll see it's not really about the idea itself. It's about what you think that idea says about you. If you're wrong about this, then maybe you're not as smart as you thought. Maybe you're not as good. Maybe you don't have it figured out the way you told yourself you did, and that feels unbearable. So you grip tighter. You argue harder. You need them to see it your way, not because the truth matters, but because your sense of yourself depends on it. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." And you can feel that, can't you? The very act of defending creates the prison. The moment you need to be right, you've lost your freedom. You're no longer open. You're no longer curious. You're no longer present with what's actually here. You're trapped in the need to protect something that was never solid to begin with. Because what you're defending, this identity, this position, this story, it's not permanent. It never was. You've changed your mind before. You've been wrong before. You believed things deeply and then let them go. And yet here you are again, clutching at this one thing as if your entire existence depends on it. What would happen if you were wrong? Really, what would happen? Would you disappear? Would everything you built collapse? Or would you simply be someone who was wrong about something, the way every human being has been wrong about countless things since the beginning of time? The suffering isn't in being wrong. The suffering is in the desperate need to be right. It's in the clinging. It's in the belief that your worth, your safety, your very self is tied to this idea you're defending. And so you sacrifice your peace for it. You sacrifice your relationships for it. You sacrifice the simple freedom of not knowing, of being open, of letting things be uncertain. You can feel the weight of it. How exhausting it is to always be on guard, always ready to defend, always needing to prove something. And underneath that exhaustion is fear. Fear that if you let go, if you stop defending, you'll be exposed, vulnerable, seen as less than you need to be seen as. But that fear is just another story. Another thing you're carrying that isn't true. You are not your opinions. You are not your positions. You are not the one who has to be right. Those are just things passing through you. Thoughts, beliefs, identities that come and go like weather. And when you defend them as if they are you make yourself small, you make yourself rigid, you turn your life into a courtroom where you're always on trial. What if you didn't need to defend anything? What if you could sit with someone who disagrees with you and simply be there, without the need to convince them, without the need to protect yourself? What if you could be wrong and still be whole? What if your freedom didn't depend on being right, but on letting go of the need to be anything at all? You don't have to answer that now. You don't have to fix this or figure it out. Just notice it. Notice what you're defending. Notice how it feels in your body when you grip onto it. Notice the cost of that gripping, the tension, the separation, the loss of ease. And notice that right now, in this moment, you're still here. Still breathing, still aware, even without the defense, even without the need to be right. The question remains open. You're watching the moment they pulled away, not just once, over and over. You're rewinding it in your mind, studying their face, their words, the silence that followed. You're looking for the exact second when something in you stopped being enough, when you became less, when the distance began. And you're searching so carefully, aren't you? Like there's a hidden frame in the film where you can see it, the moment you lost your worth. As if finding it would explain everything. As if seeing it clearly would finally make sense of why they're no longer close. But notice what's happening as you search. You're taking their distance and turning it into evidence. Evidence that something is wrong with you, that you failed. That somewhere in your words or your silence, your presence or your absence, you became unworthy of staying. Their distance becomes your deficiency. Their pulling away becomes your proof. And the mind keeps replaying it because it believes if you just look hard enough, you'll find the answer. You'll locate the flaw. You'll discover what you did or didn't do, what you were or weren't. Then maybe you could fix it. Maybe you could go back. Maybe you could become worthy again. But you're not really searching for a moment, are you? You're searching for control. You're trying to make sense of something that feels senseless. You're trying to turn their choice into your mistake, because if it's your mistake, then it's something you can understand, something you can own, something that makes you less helpless. If you became unworthy, then at least there's a reason. At least there's someone to blame. At least you're not just standing here while someone walks away for reasons you can't see or touch or change. So you replay it. You study every conversation, every text message, every moment you were together and every moment you were apart. You examine your face in their eyes. You measure your words against their silence. You build a case against yourself, piece by piece, until the distance feels like something you earned. But what if their distance isn't about your worth at all? What if it's just distance? What if people pull away for 1,000 reasons that have nothing to do with you? What if they're lost in their own fear, their own pain, their own confusion? What if they're moving through their own impermanence, their own changing, and it has nothing to do with whether you're enough? You can't know. You can't see inside them. You can only see your own mind, creating stories, building monuments to unworthiness, turning their absence into your identity. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." But you're withholding it, aren't you? You're making it conditional. You're saying, "I'll accept myself when I understand what I did wrong. I'll be kind to myself when I find the moment I failed. I'll believe I'm worthy when they come back." And so you stay stuck in the replaying, searching for the moment, building the case, becoming smaller and smaller in your own eyes, while they simply move through their life unaware that you're here, dismantling yourself frame by frame. Notice how exhausting this is. Notice how the searching never ends. Because there is no moment. There's no single frame where your worth disappeared. Worth doesn't work that way. It doesn't come and go based on whether someone stays close or moves away. It doesn't live in their eyes or their words or their presence. But the mind wants it to. The mind wants worth to be something you earn, something you keep, something you can lose. Because if you can lose it, then you can find it again. If you became unworthy, you can become worthy. If there's a moment, you can fix the moment. Except you're already tired, aren't you? Tired of searching, tired of replaying, tired of building this case against yourself that never quite closes, tired of waiting for the distance to make sense. What if it doesn't have to make sense? What if their distance is just what's happening, and your worth was never on trial? What if you've been watching the wrong film this whole time? Not the film of what happened between you, but the film of how you've been treating yourself since they left. The replaying isn't remembering, it's punishing. It's a way of staying close to them by staying close to the pain. It's a way of keeping them real by making yourself wrong, but they're already distant and you're still here. And the moment you keep searching for doesn't exist, not because you're too blind to see it, but because their leaving isn't proof of your failing. People leave. People change. People move through their own lives, pulled by currents you can't see. And none of it means you were ever unworthy. You just keep telling yourself that story. Over and over, replaying it, believing it, searching for the moment it became true. But it was never true. It's just the story your mind tells when it can't accept that some things simply happen, that some distance just is. And you're still here, watching the film, looking for yourself in their eyes, forgetting that you were never lost. You finish something. Maybe it's a project at work. Maybe it's something you made, something you wrote, something you gave. And then you wait. You check your phone. You refresh. You glance at the door. You listen for footsteps. You're waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to say it mattered. And the waiting itself, can you feel it? How it sits in your chest, how it makes everything you just did feel incomplete, unfinished, like it doesn't count yet, like it's not real until someone else confirms it. You did the thing is done, but somehow it's not enough, not quite, not yet, because you're waiting for recognition to tell you that what you did mattered. And maybe it comes. Someone says good job, someone likes it, someone sees you, and there's relief. A little exhale, a moment where you feel okay, where you feel like it counted, like you counted. But notice what happens next, how quickly that feeling fades, how soon you're back to waiting again, how the next thing you do also needs to be seen, also needs to be confirmed, also needs someone else to make it real. You're giving other people the power to decide if your life matters. Not once, not occasionally, every day, every action, every effort. You're handing it over, waiting for them to hand it back. And they do sometimes, but never enough, never for long enough. Because recognition is like water in your hands. You can't hold it. It slips through. And then you're thirsty again. And when it doesn't come, when no one notices, when no one says anything, when the silence stretches, what happens then? You start to doubt. Maybe it wasn't good enough. Maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe I don't matter. The thing you did begins to shrink. It loses its shape. It becomes nothing because no one reflected it back to you. But the thing itself hasn't changed, only your relationship to it, only your need for it to be seen. You're not really asking if what you did mattered, you're asking if you matter, and you're looking for the answer in someone else's eyes, in someone else's words, in someone else's approval. And that's where the suffering lives, in the looking, in the waiting, in the belief that you will find the answer there. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection, but you're not giving yourself that, you're withholding it, waiting. Waiting for permission, waiting for proof, waiting for recognition to arrive so you can finally feel like what you did, like what you are, is enough. And the recognition might come. It might. But even when it does, it doesn't fill the space you think it will. Because the space isn't empty because of a lack of recognition. The space is empty because you've made your worth conditional, temporary, dependent on something outside yourself that keeps changing, that keeps moving, that you can never control. You can't control what other people see. You can't control what they say. You can't control if they notice or if they care or if they remember. And yet you keep waiting, keep checking, keep hoping that this time it will be different. This time it will be enough. This time you'll finally feel solid. But you won't. Because recognition doesn't make you solid. It just makes you more dependent, more fragile, more afraid of the next time it doesn't come. What if you stopped waiting? Not because you decided to. Not because you're trying to be strong or independent or above it all, but just because you saw it, saw how the waiting creates the suffering, saw how you're the one making your own worth conditional, saw how you're handing yourself over, again and again, to something that can't hold you. You did what you did. It's already done. It already happened. It already is. And whether someone sees it or not doesn't change what it was. Doesn't change that you showed up, doesn't change that you tried, doesn't change that you gave what you had to give in that moment. The recognition you're waiting for, it's not going to complete you, it's not going to make you whole. It's not going to make what you did finally matter. What you did already matters, or it doesn't. And the mattering isn't something someone else gives you. It's not something you earn. It's not something that arrives in the form of praise or attention or being seen. It just is, or it isn't. And you're the only one who's here with it, the only one who knows what it took, the only one who was there for all of it, the only one who doesn't need to be convinced. But you keep asking someone else to convince you, and you keep waiting. You're calling it yours, aren't you? That relationship, that version of someone who no longer exists. That time in your life when things felt different. That identity you used to wear so easily. That person you were before everything changed. You're still saying, mine, even though it's gone. Not gone in some distant abstract way. Gone in the most immediate, undeniable sense. The person isn't who they were. The moment has passed. The feeling dissolved. The circumstance shifted. And yet you're holding the word mine in your mouth like it still means something. Like it can pull back what's already disappeared. Notice what happens when you do this. You reach back into memory and you touch the shape of what was. You feel its edges. You remember how it felt to have it, to be it, to live inside it. And for a moment, there's a strange comfort in that reaching, a familiar ache. Because if you can still call it yours, maybe it's not completely gone. Maybe you're not completely without it. But then you open your eyes, and it's not there. And the gap between mine and gone, that's where the suffering lives. You're not just missing what's gone, you're trying to possess it while it's missing. You're gripping empty space, you're claiming ownership of air. And every time you say mine, you're telling yourself a story that reality keeps contradicting. The world keeps saying, no longer. And you keep whispering, still mine. It's exhausting, isn't it? Because holding on to something that's already gone requires constant effort. You have to remember it just right. You have to keep the image clear. You have to protect it from fading. You have to argue with time itself. You have to insist that what was should still be, that what ended should have continued, that what changed should have stayed. And underneath all of that, there's a quiet terror. If it's not mine anymore, then what do I have? If I let go of calling it mine, does that mean it never mattered? Does it mean I'm erasing it? Does it mean I'm betraying it, or abandoning it, or admitting I've lost something I can never get back? So you hold tighter to the word. Mine, mine, mine. But the tighter you hold, the more you feel the absence. The Buddha said, you only lose what you cling to. Not because clinging makes things disappear, but because clinging is what turns disappearance into loss, what turns change into suffering, what turns the natural flow of life into a personal wound. Things come. Things go. This is not a problem until you stand in the middle and say, mine, to what's already leaving. And maybe you know this. Maybe you've known it for a while. Maybe you can feel, somewhere beneath the claiming and the holding, that calling it mine doesn't bring it back, doesn't preserve it, doesn't honor it. It just keeps you tied to a ghost. It keeps you building a life around an absence. It keeps you speaking to someone who isn't listening, reaching for something that isn't there, being someone you no longer are, but still you hold on. Because letting go feels like betrayal, like forgetting, like saying it didn't matter. Except it's not. Letting go of mine isn't erasing what was. It's seeing it clearly. It's acknowledging that it happened, that it was real, that it moved through your life and left its mark, and that it's over, completely over. Not over in a way you can fix or reverse or negotiate with, just over. And when you stop calling it yours, you're not losing it again. You're just stopping the losing. You're letting what's gone be gone. You're letting what's changed be changed. You're letting the past be the past, instead of dragging it into this moment, dressing it up in present tense words, pretending it's still here when it's not. What are you holding on to by calling something mine? Maybe you're holding on to the feeling of having, the identity of being someone who has that. The safety of knowing who you were when it was yours. The control that comes from claiming even when there's nothing left to claim. Maybe you're holding on to the idea that if you just don't let go, you won't have to feel the full weight of its absence. But you already feel it. Every time you say mine and reach for what isn't there, you feel it. The holding isn't protecting you from the loss, it's keeping you inside it. And maybe, just maybe, you can notice this without fixing it. You can see yourself reaching. You can hear yourself saying, mine. You can feel the gap between the word and the reality. You can notice the exhaustion of gripping empty air. You don't have to let go. You don't have to do anything. You can just see what's happening. And in the seeing, something shifts. Not because you made it shift, but because seeing is different from holding. What's gone is gone. And you're still here. You've been carrying this quietly, haven't you? Someone looked past you, didn't respond, didn't see. And in that moment, something inside you collapsed just a little, not dramatically, just a quiet folding inward. And now you're here, turning it over in your mind, wondering why their disregard feels like such definitive proof that you don't matter. It's not even that they said you were insignificant. They didn't have to. Their silence, their absence, their looking elsewhere, somehow that became the evidence, the verdict. And you accepted it. You took what they didn't give and turned it into a truth about yourself. Notice what's happening here. Notice how much power you've handed over. Their attention, or lack of it, has become the measure of your worth. When they notice you, you expand. When they don't, you shrink. Your sense of yourself rises and falls with their gaze, their words, their acknowledgement. You've made them the authority on whether you exist in a way that matters. And it's exhausting, isn't it? This constant measuring, this waiting. You watch for signs. You replay interactions. You wonder if you said the right thing, wore the right expression, showed up in the right way. You're trying to solve the puzzle that has no solution because the puzzle itself is the problem. You're asking someone else to give you what you think you're missing. And when they don't, when they turn away or stay silent, you take it as confirmation. See, I was right, I'm not enough. But look closer. What is this proof you're holding on to? Someone didn't respond to a message. Someone didn't invite you. Someone forgot your name. Someone chose someone else. These are just moments, just events. They happened, and now they're gone. But you're still here, replaying them, building a case against yourself with evidence that doesn't actually say what you think it says. Their disregard tells you about their attention in that moment, their priorities, their capacity, their own distraction or preoccupation or limitation. It doesn't tell you about your worth. It can't. Worth isn't something that exists out there, waiting to be confirmed or denied by someone else's behavior. But you've been living as if it is, as if you're on trial and every interaction is testimony. And here's what makes it so painful. You're not just hurt by their disregard, you're hurt by what you're doing with it. You're taking their absence and using it to reinforce a story you already believed, that you're not quite enough, not quite worthy of attention, not quite significant. Their disregard didn't create that story, it just activated it. And now you're feeding it, watering it, giving it your energy, your time, your peace. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. But you're withholding it, aren't you? You're waiting for permission, waiting for someone else to see you first, to validate you first, before you'll allow yourself to matter in your own eyes. What if their disregard is just their disregard? Not a message, not a judgment, not a revelation about who you are, just something that happened. Someone looked away, someone forgot, someone chose differently, and you're free to let it be just that. A moment that passed, not a prophecy, not a proof, but instead you're clinging to it, holding it up like evidence, examining it from every angle. And in that clinging, you're creating your own suffering. You're taking something impermanent, someone's fleeting attention or inattention, and trying to make it mean something permanent about you. You're building your sense of self on the shifting ground of other people's awareness. And then wondering why you feel so unstable. Can you see it? The way you're doing this to yourself? Not because you're broken or foolish, but because you've learned to look outside for what can only be found inside. You've learned to let other people's regard or disregard become the mirror you use to see yourself. And that mirror is cracked and distorted and never still. You are here. You exist. Not because someone noticed, not because someone validated it. You exist because you exist. Your significance isn't something that needs to be proven or earned or confirmed. It's not something that can be given or taken away by someone else's attention. And yet you keep asking them to give it to you. You keep waiting for them to hand you your own worth. And when they don't, when they're busy or distracted or simply looking elsewhere, you take it personally. You make it mean something about you. But it doesn't. It just means they looked elsewhere. Sit with that. Not to fix it, not to feel better, just to see it, to see how you've been creating this, how you've been letting someone else's passing moment become your permanent truth. And in the seeing, maybe something loosens. Maybe the grip softens. Maybe you stop asking them to tell you who you are.